So we are Coping Life Talk, and we're excited to be on broadcasting our program today, Wellness with Gina. As always, we introduce our co-hosts, Candy Sheehan and Scott Kiddle. We are alive for 2 years, and we cross the 100 number, and we are excited about this third year of our broadcasting. We are Coping Life Talk, and I'm Lydia Stomina, Candy Sheehan, and Scott Kiddle, and Gina Ramirez. Today we are. So wellness is a very, very huge topic in our days because everybody is looking for ways to become healthier, more better fit. But the main thing is to be healthy emotionally as well. And this is the whole complex of different approaches and coping skills that come with that. Gina, welcome to Coping Life Talk. And please introduce yourself.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I am Gina Ramirez. I am a licensed therapist. I'm also a certified health coach, and I'm a worksite wellness specialist. Mouthful.
Good. So tell us, please, about the aspects of our podcast today. So what are the major topics that you want us to hear and also to be coached in a way? Because this is what our setting is usually. So we are sort of your guinea pigs. And of course, our audience, people who will be watching us today, and also people return to our podcast during the week. So, of course, I want to hear what it is about. So, please tell us about what comes first.
Yes, so when we talk about wellness, you're absolutely right. It encompasses so many different aspects. And I like to think of it as banking your health. And so putting daily deposits into your life accounts and going through your day-to-day, intentionally putting those daily deposits in. So that's what I wanted to talk about today.
Wonderful. And we are excited to hear and follow you step by step. So what does it mean, first of all, wellness?
Wellness is not just about your physical health. It really is about your mental, physical, spiritual, social, and your career. So I like to think of these as life accounts. Each one of these you can consider life accounts, and everyone has got them. You may not have that last one career. Maybe you're retired or you're doing something else with your life. So replace career life account with that one thing. But what I do know is that when our accounts get low, when we get stressed, stress takes withdrawals out of our account. That's when we get into trouble. That's when people seek me out because they're burned out, they're stressed, and the stress is starting to show up physically for them. So that's what we want to avoid. Because wellness is all encompassing, we can't just look at what you're eating, how you're sleeping, if you're exercising. We really do need to touch on all the life accounts.
So please tell us, go ahead, Candy.
Sorry, you said you were making deposits on a daily basis, and I just love to know what some of those deposits are and how you do that. If you're having a stressful day, how in the world can you make a deposit in your account? It seems like it would be impossible.
It does, doesn't it? Especially when
Yes.
you are a busy working professional woman. That is who I mostly work with, are busy professional women. So you're working, a lot of them have families, and it is so difficult. So that's why I said the word intentional. We have to get intentional about putting those daily deposits in, and that can look all sorts of ways. So for example, under the mental life account, you may start your day off with 3 deep breaths. 3 deep breaths actually changes your biology. So not only are you getting mental clarity, but just by doing 3 deep breaths, you're also putting deposits into your physical life account. So you've got the mental and physical with one activity, those 3 deep breaths, that you're adding in a deposit into those life accounts.
I think that's amazing. You have to be so intentional. And, to remind yourself to do that, I think will be the hardest step, because all of us can take 3 deep breaths. That's not hard, but that's so important. And, it does make you feel differently. I believe that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And so, still, I have a question about this account, because you are the very first health and mental health professional who uses that terminology. And so, let's help our audience to understand, how did you come up, first of all, with such definition? It really resonates with me. And I think it will resonate with many people because everybody has a bank account and everybody knows when it is in the red. And so, is it similar to what you teach?
That's exactly it. I first started talking about this as buckets, putting deposits or, putting something into your bucket, right? But then I started thinking, this is like a bank. Really, it is. It's your bank, it's your health bank. So you should be banking your health. We all, like you said, have financial banks. We know what it means to have compounding interest. Same thing happens with your health. If we are putting daily deposits in, we've got compound interest in there. So when the stressors come to take withdrawals, it's not going to completely deplete us. We won't be bankrupt. We'll still have some in reserve. So you want a little emergency fund. Think of it that way. And right now, everybody is hurting with gas prices, and I'm in the States, so everybody's hurting with gas prices and talking about the grocery bill being so high. We all need a little emergency fund. And I think that goes, the same with your health as well.
I think it's so funny that you said used to talk about it as being a bucket. And see, that's what I've always said. And I just have said, there's a hole in my bucket. It's running out faster than I can put it in. And so that did not work for me. Gina, thank you so much, because now I can think about it as being like a bank account. And so it won't be depleted. But, my bucket was really springing so many leaks, I couldn't keep it shored up. Thank you for kind of changing my thinking. I think that's going to be very helpful.
Interestingly enough, that's an excellent exchange. Interestingly enough, for me, is that when I think about my bank account, of course, I had to learn the hard way about balancing my checkbook, right? So it's kind of, in a way, balancing it at the end of the month or end of the year. God forbid the tax season comes, it's like, oh my. But so, in a way, the way I see your system is like it has sub accounts, because you talk them about the mind, you talk about the body, and you talk about the behavior, right? That's your terminology. So I will put on a screen. Let's begin with the mind. So let's kind of have one sub account at a time. So could you start with the mind?
Absolutely. So when you think about putting deposits into that life account, the mental or mind life account, you really want to think of quieting the mind. We are so inundated from the moment we wake up in the morning with light, with sound, stimulated, right? Constantly stimulated from the moment we wake up to the time your head really hits the pillow. So you really need some quiet time. And not a lot of people like quiet time because that leaves us with our own thoughts. So getting quiet really helps. Maybe you have a meditation practice, maybe you're journaling, maybe you have a gratitude practice. Maybe you're learning something new. Anytime that we're making new synapses in the brain, that also helps us to have something different going on, right? We're making new connections. We're learning something new. We're getting out of the stress of the mind and moving into something else. So those are some ways of the mind that you can think about to put those daily deposits in.
It seems that those deposits, in a sense, help reprogram the computer that we have up there, and the reprogramming of the computer then can create different and more healthy outputs if the inputs are good and the internal programming is improved.
Excellent. I'm glad you brought that up, because it's not only the internal programming, it's the habits, right? We're just creating new habits. We're creating new connections in the brain. I look at it, I like analogies, so bear with me, but I'm going to give you another one. It's like when you drive on a country road and you see those deep divots, there's no pavement, there's no street, but you know where to drive. right? Your brain is the same way. It's created some deep divots, and maybe those divots are unhealthy patterns, unhealthy habits. So by working on your mental life account, you're going to be seeing some healthier habits, making different divots in the brain.
I think another word for divot is rut.
Yes.
And I've heard it said that a rut is the same as a grave, but with both ends knocked out, or a coffin, rather.
So, what methods do you use to help people to develop those new habits?
When I work with women in my group, I give them a workbook, and that workbook really helps them to guide themselves. It's like a compass, so to speak. So every month they're working on their goals, not getting sidetracked. Because what I see most often is that we have the best intentions. Our intentions are so good, and we may write them down. We may have a vision board, but if there's no accountability and no one's checking up on you, and you don't revisit those intentions at least monthly, it doesn't happen.
So you have a workbook that you developed, correct?
Yes, that is for my members. Mm-hmm.
And so these new habits are important for the part of our life when we want to be productive. Is it correct?
Yes.
So when my understanding is that what Candy was talking about, that bucket that is kind of has a hole. You call it a bank account or bank. So for me, I remember how my sister told me when I stretched myself too thin. She said in this kind of tone of voice that she was so devastated with my stupidity. And she said, "Don't you stop the car to get gas at the gas station?" And I said, "Of course." And she said, "Why don't you stop, for goodness gracious, and fill your tank?" And that made sense to me. So it's kind of similar, right? So and of course she was so outraged with me that she found that simple example for me that resonated. And of course, now when I understand banking system, I'm from Russia, that's what you need to understand, that when I came to America, I felt like, as many checks I have in my checkbook, then that much money I have. So I could just write them. And that's how I think I treated my life. Like, I have all the time in my hands. I have all the energy I can spare. And then unless I just really fall, and then I don't have resources. Then I don't have that bucket or the bank account where I was storing things. So is it something that you can recommend us today, that like small behavioral change, and we come back to the behavior, but to develop these new tools, like you call them valuable tools? So you have this workbook. What else?
We have community in that we meet once a month, twice a month. We actually meet twice a month in the membership, one time for meditation together as a group, and then another time for coaching. So we take that workbook, and any place anybody's getting stuck, we talk about that within a group setting, so that it's not just my voice, right? Because what I have found in working with these women, oh my gosh, they're wonderful. We have resources and we have experiences from all of our lives to come together and to say, that happened to me once, or here's how I handled it. So just because I'm the health coach, just because I'm certified, doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't, have a great story or something to add. So I think doing things in community, having accountability is really important.
And this might kind of hit with what you're saying, having community. One of the ruts that I seem to have in my life, when I'm really busy or when I get tired, I have too much going on, I start eating more because I think I need energy. I'm tired. I eat and eat, trying to get back the strength and energy that I need to go on. And that's a terrible thing to do. It just makes me feel so much worse. Is there any little trick that you tell people about to help them break out of that? I don't do that all the time. It's just, but I fall back in that awful habit every once in a while. And then as soon as I see I'm doing it, I can stop myself. but it doesn't mean that's not a go-to thing for me. How do you break a bad habit like that?
That is a great question. And, we all have our vices. So for you, it might be eating. For me, it might be something else. And I wish that I could say that goes away. But, if that's our inclination, that we might lean towards that a little bit. But knowing when to say, oh, I'm doing that thing again. And it takes awareness, just like you said, you may start into it and then take awareness and go, oh, okay, let me do something else. And I think having a list of what else can I do when I get myself into this situation, what has worked for me in the past? Do I need to call a friend, phone a friend and get distracted? Or, do I need to go take a walk? Maybe I can take my dog around the block a few minutes. There's so many things that we can do. Drink a glass of water, wait 15 minutes. I am not one to say diet or restrict anything. If I need a bite of dark chocolate to get me through, I might have a little bite, and that's okay.
So that's okay. And I think it's a comfort, because sometimes I think when we push ourselves too hard, we create another problem that is stress. It's another stress, right? But
Right.
so tell us, please, when you talk about these common challenges, as what Candy just mentioned, then of course, like you mentioned, procrastination, anxiety, what else? That could push us into that corner when we will need to reach down or out into that deposit of what we placed there initially.
Yeah. So what kinds of things might push you over the edge? I think definitely career and family, trying to balance those two. That's what I have seen a lot of people, that's where they get stuck, right? That one place needs me more than another. And then I might start feeling really guilty if I'm spending too much time at the office or too much time working rather than with my family. Or if I'm with my family, now I'm feeling guilty about that project that needs to get done. And you're always looking at your clock and you're never present. So we talk a lot about just being where you are right now. All that other stuff is going to wait. You can come back to it. No one's going to die, hopefully, if you don't get there. But I really see that as one of the major issues that people deal with, is just trying to balance their life. And yes, that creates anxiety and procrastination and all the other stuff. But if we get down to the root of it, we're talking now about, what are your values? Where are your priorities? Because when we know what's driving us, what's important to us, then all the other stuff kind of goes away. We can make informed decisions when we know what's important to us.
So that's important to prevent that moment when procrastination and stresses and anxiety start really biting one piece at a time of all this energy and health, wellness that we deposited, correct?
Right.
So, and there are many, you're right. So much family, career, even friendships,
Absolutely.
education, everything. So, okay, so that's the mind piece, right? So let's talk a little about the body piece. Are we ready to go about the body? Body is a big piece.
Scott, did you have a question first, Scott, before we go on?
Okay.
I did have an observation. I'm reminded of a little book years ago called Tyranny of the Urgent. And it talked about the stress that we find ourselves under because someone has made something urgent for us. And oftentimes those things that are urgent don't necessarily map to our values, but yet because we're just the kind of people that can't say no, then we take that urgent thing upon us, and we end up spending time and energy and heart and health to satisfy somebody else, but yet we've not necessarily paid attention to the things that are at the top of our value list.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Scott, for this question. Well, let's talk about the body now.
Yes, the body. How do you put deposits into this body life account or the physical life account? So here we're looking at your food intake, right? What are you eating? Are you eating enough fruits and vegetables? How many fruits and vegetables should you be getting in a day? Does anybody know?
7.
7 to 13.
7 to 13. That's more than I
Good.
thought. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Why is it so many? Do you guys have any clue?
I believe that, as you know, I'm not, of course, an expert, but first of all, it's fiber.
Yes.
Second, it's low calorie. Then it's filling. So since it's a volume of a salad is much bigger than a piece of let's say a chocolate, so then of course, or like a spoon of ice cream, and so then of course you feel fuller. Another thing I think that helps me when I'm stressed out to chew, right? So then you chew salad until your jaw falls out, and so I think the brain participates and calms down. Is it correct?
Oh, you were spot on. Absolutely. Very good. The other piece, though, that everyone should know is the fact that our food supply is not as good as it once was. Nutrient dense. It's just not as nutrient dense. So we need more of it. I know it sounds crazy, that 7 to 13. And if you're an athlete, or if you run long distances, if you're under a lot of stress, then you need more that plant nutrients, because it's feeding us at the cellular level. So we really are what we eat. I mean, our organs replace, the cells replace themselves, our tissues replace themselves, but they're replacing themselves based on what we're eating. So if you're eating junk food, again, if you're not going to the bathroom regularly, that's another thing that I talk about a lot, is elimination. We should be going to the bathroom regularly. That means more than once a week, like once a day or more. So it's very important that we're eliminating, for the hormone's sake, for the toxin's sake. Our skin is the largest organ of the body. So what we put on the skin takes in, right? It goes in. And so we really need to be careful about all the things that we use, because it's causing stress again on the body. So what we're eating is important. The microbiome, your gut bacteria, is important. And it's important because serotonin, the happy hormone, is made in the gut, most of it, about 85% of that. So when you talk anxiety and depression, again, we're going back to the food discussion. What are you eating? Because it's feeding the gut microbiome. So you think too about the vagus nerve that runs from the gut to the brain and is constantly sending text messages back and forth, back and forth. What am I eating? Am I hungry? Am I craving this? Am I craving that? And whatever you're eating, again, is making you foggy in the head. It's making you sleepy after lunch. So all of these things contribute, and that's just the food piece. So exercising, again, is going to be very important to our health. And again, it affects the mental health. So anything we do with the physical body, there's that mind-body connection. Anything we do with the physical body is going to affect the mental, and anything we do with the mental is going to affect the physical body. Sleeping is another one that fits in under that physical pillar. Are you sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night? That's what research will say is best. It may be a little less for you, it may be a little more, but we've got to get sleep. It's the only way that our brain has to remove the toxins, is by sleeping. Your body has the lymph system, it has the liver. We have lots of different ways just within the body to be getting rid of toxins. The brain does not. It has sleep. So we've really got to pay attention. If you have Alzheimer's in your family, dementia maybe in your family, take care of your sleep.
So that comes to the behavior. Go ahead, Candy.
I'm sorry, your face was covered and I didn't know you
Yes.
were getting ready to talk. I apologize. This is the first time I heard about our food not being as nutrient dense as it once was. And I wonder, why would that be? Are we over processing? It seems like an apple is an apple or an orange is an orange. What has happened to our food that it's not as nutrient dense as it once was?
Well, the farming practices have changed. I mean, if you think about your grandmother, how your grandmother ate compared to how we eat, just the processing of our food, our farming is different. The GMOs are different. If you think about 20, 30 years ago, the pesticides are different. Are you buying organic? I mean, just the way that we grow food, the seeds are different. There really has been quite a change. And it's not like I lived in Italy for a time. The food is completely different there. It's so fresh and just, much more nutrient dense, in my opinion, than it is here in the States.
That is really interesting. I will tell you too, Red Delicious apples used to be delicious. They were really good. They're awful now. They're beautiful. They look pretty and they don't taste good. And so I just really appreciate what you said. I think there's a lot of truth in that. I understand.
And what got my attention, Gina, is that when you ask how many portions of vegetables do we need to eat, is that it used to be 3 to, no, I believe like 5, let's say fruits also. Fruits is important, but vegetables were a little under fruits. But now I never heard 7 to 16, which says that it's true that, first of all, people do overeat on meats, fat and fatty meats, but also on carbs. And then that makes sense for me, 7 to 16, because when I've heard from one of the dietitian that you need to have 3/4 of your plate green and only 1/4 like meats, red, chicken, and only like maybe a tiny piece of carbs. So that's why it's 7 to 16, correct?
Right. Yeah. That's exactly right. And when you sit down to eat those vegetables and fiber first, because that's going to coat your system, your stomach, your intestines. And so it'll take longer for the other stuff then to get in, right? You're going to fuel your cells quickly with that good stuff and then let the other stuff get into the system.
What I find interesting that the body part component of your podcast today and the behavior are very, very tightly connected. Because the body, yes, when you talk, like, for example, you talked about relationships and sleep, which is essential for many things, not just simply for resting, right? But also for processing our even food, right? So that's what we need, this kind of a gap. And intermittent fasting probably is a part of that we have more time that we give to our body to process what we eat. So behavior, if we, and I think since it's interconnected, we can go back and forth from the body to behavior. But talking about behavior, so physical health, you say, but should not be, but ignore crucial aspects of their lives, right? So most people spend time on their physical health, exercising, and even eating right. Mm-hmm. Many are so obsessed. Many so obsessed with like how much protein they eat, and again like 7 to 16. So I think everybody is so busy who is health-minded, chewing those vegetables, that maybe we forget about relationships when we are doing that. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. Because wellness is everything, right? It's about putting those deposits into your life accounts, and relationships fits right into that social account. Do you have close relationships? And, with who? We weren't put on this world, on this earth, to live it alone or do it by ourselves. So we really do need that connection piece with other people, no matter if you're an introvert or extrovert. You really do need close relationships. There was some research done not too long ago on happiness. And these researchers went all over the world looking at these different cultures. And some of them lived with no running water, right? They had no running water. They had no shoes on their feet, but they seemed really happy. And then they came to the States and looked at us. And they noticed we were really unhappy. We've got a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety. And what's going on? We don't value relationships. The commonality, one of the commonalities, there were several that they found, was relationships were at the top of their list. So they were really connected. And I think we've kind of lost that. Maybe we go to work and we go home, or we're stuck watching TV. We get stuck in routines and ruts. When was the last time that you went out with your friends or even talked to your friends? I think COVID, especially COVID, the last couple of years, really hurt people. They hurt the mental health, right? And we need to get back now into doing things in person and together.
Nothing can make me happier than to watch how villagers, women especially, dance flamenco dance. Because when they come, like, some of them are so overweight already and kind of, seniors, and it does not matter, young or old, thin or fat. They just start, like tapping, and the men play their drums, and the music is so addictive, and you will not see a sad or stressed out face. They just, after a hard day in the field or wherever they work, maybe construction, then they get together in the village, and then in that dusty road or whatever it is, not even the stage, they dance. And I think this whole stress goes out, and then they probably eat together. But watching them dancing, it just makes me so happy that people have this tradition when they gather together. So thank you for saying that, because COVID, of course, threw us all out from that balance. But honestly, if you think about American generations and their characteristics, the generation of, let's say, depression time, it's called silent generation. So people who spoke little, they socialized only probably after work a little, and they did not complain much. They just took all the hardship inward. And then, of course, maybe like baby boomers, they are boomers, they are just going out more, and they're happy, they have more money. But look at the new generation. They are more introverted, they're self-sufficient, they eat right, and they exercise a lot, but they're not socializing. So they're just kind of content being online. So then what will be your advice from the point of adjusting our behavior for whatever generation? And I'm not sure that you go by generations, but if you do, that will be interesting to hear, because here we are from we're from a similar generation. So, but I'm sure that we will have people, Generation Z and Gen X's, whoever listens to us today and in the future, baby boomers. Of course, silent generation probably goes away. But your piece of advice to people from different age groups.
Yes.
How
Well,
can we tune up our behavior?
right. And if you think about that Great Depression era, they were the most financially stable, really, of all generations, because they worked, and the value of that work was, they saved. So we don't do that anymore. But they weren't that well connected, I don't think. And then you move down a little to, Generation X. I'm in Generation X. It's like, yes, we want the value of work. We want the things that we want our work to be value based, but we also are very well connected to our family. But I grew up in the generation where moms started to go back to work. Back then, baby boomers, so to speak, the mom stayed home typically. Dad went to work, and then we become Generation X, and then mom starts working outside the home. There was divorce. So lots of different things going on in the world at the time of Generation X. Generation Z, you come down to Generation Z, and that they're very well connected, very well established with their iPads and their iPhones. And my generation, we didn't have that, right? So we were connected in, let me go play outside with my friends. But then when you get down to Generation Z, not so much, because now all they know is the computer, and they're very well versed with computers and iPhones and technology. And you keep going down, right? X, Y, Z. You keep going down to these different generations, and my kids don't go anywhere. And my kids are 19 or 18 and 16 now. So they are not as connected as I was physically. However, they are talking to their friends on the computer, playing games. It's just different. It's a different kind of connection. What I really make sure of, though, is that we spend a lot of family time, FaceTime together, because I still think that that's important. FaceTime with grandparents, with cousins, So even if their friend group they're online with, I want their family community to be in person. So we make that a priority in our house. So as you get down to different generations, you can see how things have kind of gone wider and wider apart as far as getting connected with one another. I think you have to, again, come back to that intentionality and make it very like, yes, we're going to do this. And whether you like it or not, it's going to be mandatory fun.
Going back to your groups, when you meet, once you meet to work on a workbook, with a workbook, and then you brought up that you invite and encourage people in a group to also lead, so sort of like a co-coach, right, each other, and the accountability becomes a huge factor in that group setting. So do you exercise when you meet, or it's mostly talking? So what is the setting?
Yes, it's mostly talking. We have a private workout accountability group because the women are from all over. We Zoom, basically. It's a Zoom happening meeting. So we don't meet in person, which is unfortunate, but they're from all over. So we can't really meet in person, but we do have a private workout accountability group kind of thing outside of, our normal time to meet.
But so that means that people can join you on your website that we have below on the screen. And so then there's a kind of apply. And
Yes,
then
they can inquire.
do you have like any size of the group limitation or not?
Nope, not right now. Not right now. Right now, we have a 90-day refresh group that will most likely start in September. I'm waiting to see how many inquiries I get about that. But the 90-day refresh is the same kind of setup as my membership. It's just more of a fixed time. The membership is completely ongoing. Those ladies have been in there for over a year. And each 3 months, I take in another group for 3 months. And then if they want to stay for continued support, they move over to the membership model.
Okay. And so what is your major coaching advice to people that you kind of give for free as an invitation?
Well, this is exactly what I do, talking about this daily deposit framework and how you can lower your stress level quickly, get those quick wins, right now. I also have a it's Find Your Flow quiz that talks about these very things. How can I make quick deposits to get quick wins? In 15 minutes, let me lower my blood pressure and lower my emotional temperature. So they can definitely take the quiz and get set up with that. Yeah.
So I brought we have it on the screen. Go ahead. Before you go, start, Scott, I just wanted to show on a website that the group, the tab that you talked about, 90-day refresh, so people can join. But the very elementary level is this one or another one?
Yes, this is the 90-day refresh is just a container of 90 days. So
Okay.
they get the support of 90 days. They get one Zoom call with me a month. And then if they want more support beyond that, they can move on over.
Okay. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, Gina, one question that I like to ask our guests is, can you share with us one of your most roaring success stories? A client that you had that really made a significant improvement in their mental, physical, social, emotional state as a result of the services that you provide.
Oh gosh, there have been several. One gal that I'm thinking of, I run a 10-day detox program as well every so often. And one gal, she just had a lot of skin issues. She was having rashes really, and was able in 10 days to change that around. And it had to do with inflammation in the gut. in the microbiome. And once she was able to get her eating, sleeping, and elimination under control, she was able to, in 10 days, really feel so much better and notice a huge improvement in her skin.
That's a great testimony. And I'm sure folks that are watching this program, whether at whatever time that happens, they'll maybe have some hope for their own wellness to hear of stories like that one. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
I wondered too, you said that it's not about just dieting or really depriving yourself in any way, but is there something you ever say to someone, you've got to quit eating that much sugar, or the white flour is killing you? Is there anything that you say, you have to know this?
Yeah.
You know, I'm just very curious how you could do that in 10 days, because it really seems like it would take longer in my mind, you know?
Yeah, well, that detox program is eliminating all processed foods, all sugars, all alcohol. So that particular time frame, we're eliminating all of the offensive food. But what do we really want? We want metabolic flexibility, right? We want to be able to indulge and not gain 5-10 pounds and then come back to our normal eating. I think that's what everybody wants. We don't want to be on a strict diet for all of our life. No one wants to be so rigid. We want the metabolic flexibility to be able to go back and forth. But in order to get that, we've got to reset what we got. If we're not healthy, we got to do a little reset. So those 10 days are elimination, and it's hard. I'm not going to lie.
It is very hard. So I have a question to you, Gina. You have an interesting blog on your website that is called Mindful Life.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're here talking, you mentioned meditation. And so I'm sure that if we say a mindful life, what kind of life is that?
I think that's really digging into your purpose and knowing what's important to you. You know, being really intentional in your choices. I find that there's hardly ever a time in life when we're choosing between a good and a bad, right? It's usually a good and a good, and everything looks so good. You want it all, but we don't have an infinite amount of time and energy. And so we really have to be mindful about what our plan and purpose is for our own life. And everybody's different. So, you know, I can't tell you what that is for you, but I know what it is for me. And I try to be very intentional about how I'm living. And that's only because I had my own health journey, right? It's only until we have our own struggle that we begin to change.
So to be, Candy, did you have a question?
No, I was just thinking over what she said. That makes sense to me. It really does. Yeah.
But so mindfulness, we hear the word, but not everybody knows what animal is that, right? So let's kind of break it into pieces. So for example, what do I do if I apply this mindful life approach? If, for example, I feel overwhelmed?
Oh, this is such a good question. And I get asked it a lot, especially with anxiety. And we as human beings, how do we experience the world? With our senses, right? How do we take in everything that's coming into us and all around us? We experience the world through our senses. So when next time that you feel overwhelmed, just ask yourself 3 things. What do I see right now? What do I smell? And what do I hear? And that's going to bring you right back into the present. And mindfulness, again, is about knowing your purpose and plan, but also about being very present with your life and the people that are in it right this second. So we've got to get back into right now. I think with anxiety, overwhelm, we're thinking about the future. We're always future projecting. So if we can take those 3 deep breaths and ask ourselves 3 good questions, we come back to the now.
That helps. So to pay attention to what is around us, that is already helping us when we are overwhelmed. And I want honestly, I can testify to that. I never thought of that, but simply just paying attention to small things around myself immediately slows down the breathing, and it's kind of big things fall off, and you realize that the flowers are beautiful, and my desk maybe needs some cleaning, some things that, or maybe, oh, my desk looks so spotless and organized, or for example, oh, that's a picture of my children, or my husband. So, I have my favorite book next to me. So small things, and that helps us to distress, right? Also, then the question similar to that: when you feel you are out of balance, then what do you do? Same thing, to pay attention to small things around, or something else?
I think that we really have to pay attention to, again, going back to what's important to me, going back to, I like to do something called a values chart, where we list our top 5 values and be connected to that, so that, I'm feeling out of balance. I need to go back to my chart. I need that compass, that true north that tells me, oh, I've allowed some other things into my life that don't belong. When I know what my values are, I can make better decisions. And when I'm feeling out of balance, it's because, I haven't meditated in the morning. And that's really something that always keeps me in line and keeps me in balance if I'm doing my meditation practice, right? So knowing what those things are, I know how to get back.
Okay, that's helps. So kind of in a way like a pendulum, right? So because we cannot be stagnant, it's unnatural, and so we go up and down. Our blood pressure goes up and down, and our breathing increases and decreases, and that's natural. That's how we are designed, right? Am I right?
Exactly.
So we cannot be like a cold fish, no. So, and that's okay, right?
Absolutely. It's going to go up and down. And I like to call, some of those crazy places in life strategic imbalance. We're going to have strategic imbalance, but it's because we chose that. We chose the imbalance. We're not going to let something outside control us, right? When we're living our plan and our purpose, and we're making choices out of intentionality because we know what our values are, we're not going to let outside sources come into that. Unless, of course, it's something that we didn't plan for. Maybe a death in the family happens and that throws us off balance, which could possibly, be.
So then the word balance is kind of magically connected, in my understanding, with the very beginning of our podcast, right? When you talked about that daily deposit.
Yes.
Is it that balance when we fall out of that, when we stop paying attention to what we deposit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's really no such thing as balance, right? It's integration. We're integrated. We're making all these places of our lives integrated. So we really have to pay close attention to that. And it's not about being completely, like you said, stagnant or balanced. We're always going to be a little bit off, but we're making those intentional movements.
Good. So do we have any questions about this part? Okay, so then my last question to you is, Candy and Scott, tell me if you agree with me. We always, practically 95% of the time, we wake up more energized, right? And more positive and ready for the day, and with a cup of coffee especially, we're just ready to conquer the whole world. And but then something happens, right? So is it a way right in the morning? So first of all, when it is more important to prepare ourselves, before we go to bed or early in the morning? Because it seems like we wake up anyway very highly energetic, unless we're not feeling well. But so where does it start? In the evening that we go to bed, preparing ourselves, like, okay, I'm tuning myself, or it's in the morning that I need to jump and just like, oh, I forgot before I leave the house to do one more thing that Gina told me about. And unless I do that, my day is not going to be successful. So when?
I think a successful day starts the night before, quite honestly. It's how you're preparing for the next day as to how successful you're going to be. Yeah, and that begins with your sleeping. How
Uh-huh.
you're preparing for sleep, because if you don't have a good sleep routine or sleep hygiene, then you're going to get poor sleep, which means you're not going to wake up feeling rested and energized for the day. If you didn't prepare your calendar the night before and you wake up in the morning and you think, oh my gosh, I'm late, or I'm not prepared for that big meeting. So I really think it starts the night before.
So in a way, before the morning begins, we're supposed to do the whole inventory a night before, right? to start. Then we wake up. We think we wake up energetic, but we will probably be tripling that energy and happiness and joy in the morning because we prepared our calendar. We slept well. I did not wake up at 3 in the morning and went downstairs to eat my cup of ice cream, right? So then I'm just like, oh, I'm so prepared. And another thing, probably preparing our clothes
Yes.
that is ready. Okay, that's important. My sister does it and my daughter, and I usually kind of very spontaneous and flexible. But then I learned that it takes time.
Yes.
Because
yes.
like, oh no, that does not match, right, Candy? Or oh no, my hair is a mess. And so then 10 minutes late, and then ruins your day. So I put already kind of drain out of my deposit something that could be there. Okay, so okay, we prepared in the evening, went to bed, we slept well, did not eat ice cream in the night, and then we wake up. So then anything else we can do in the morning, or it's already done? We
Well,
covered.
you prepared yourself really well there, yeah, in the morning. And then we have a whole nother morning routine, right? That's going to help to balance our hormones, take care of the toxins, and all that good stuff. We start off with a nice big glass of water, not coffee. Maybe it's got some lemon in it for some toning of the cells and digestive enzymes. So, there's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down.
Okay. So then, Candy, let's ask a question. And Scott, how many cups of coffee? Go ahead.
So, what I was wondering, and maybe this is just my age, I'm a boomer, and so I have a good night routine, and really my morning routine is pretty darn good because I have time. When I was younger, I didn't do as well, but I'm older now, and so I have a good routine. But what I find out then after lunch, very often I just run out of steam. And is that just that maybe is not about balance in my life? Maybe that's more about my age. What would you tell someone? Or is there a way to kind of rejuvenate? Do you have advice for older folks?
That happens to my parents a lot. My parents are in their 70s and they like the afternoon nap. And it works great. Even I would love that if I could, but I can't do that where I work. So, I'm busy all day long. I don't get the afternoon nap. But if you can take a nap, hey, that's great. Don't feel bad about it. But
Okay.
if you're eating a whole bunch of carbs, right, for lunch, that's a whole different conversation about why you're feing bad
Right.
or tired.
I have learned, it took me a long time to figure it out. I just can't. Carbs do not like me so well, so I have kind of got that one figured out. But maybe taking the nap is what I need to do. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I just believe that, I think it's also all relative. Because when Candy feels like you feel, Candy, that, oh, my energy is drained. Honestly, I cannot catch up with you in the afternoon, or not even talking about morning. In the evening, I cannot catch up with you. So I guess your understanding of how much energy you have is much higher than mine. So, but that's what I think it's another illustration, right? So our balance that we find ourselves out of balance is also different for each person, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And our capacity to, is going to be different. If you've got little kids running around all day long that you're chasing, or you're retired, your capacity is going to look different.
That's wonderful. So let's summarize today that all these three things we talked about, the mind and the body and the behavior. So it's like a connection between all of them, right?
Absolutely.
So let's complete our podcast on the point of reset. So, okay, if I reach the bottom in a way, so I drain my bank account, I have not a single, a drop of energy, and find myself stressed out, overwhelmed, don't know how to practice mindfulness, so I'm down. So, what do I do?
You take it one baby step at a time,
Okay.
because I don't want overwhelm. And a lot of times when we reach that point of bankruptcy, we feel overwhelmed, we're stressed, we're burned out. And the last thing you want to do is add one more thing to your plate. And that's what I hear. Don't give me one more thing. I can't handle it. Right? So tiny micro actions, whatever that is for you. Maybe you are buying frozen vegetables to cook with because, hey, you don't have time to cut up vegetables or, pick out fresh stuff that's going to rot in your refrigerator because you can't get to it. And I said you should be eating 7 to 13 servings. And how are you going to do that? You start getting all worked up. Buy the frozen stuff. It's just as good. Micro actions. Go to sleep 15 minutes earlier if you can. It's in those little micro actions that we take that I think slowly start to build up that bank account. And we've got to get support. As much as you think that you don't have time for it, it actually creates more capacity. So we want to increase capacity, get support, encouragement, and we do that again in community. So find a community where you can do that.
And that's why you call it a daily deposit, correct?
Yes.
Daily deposits, small incremental deposits. Okay, thank you. I think that is very educational. Lots of things to process, right? Any questions, Scott? Candy?
No, very helpful information. Thank you so much.
We are just jumping into that depositing daily, right, Candy?
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Gina. Here with us, our guest, Gina Ramirez, and her website is on the bottom of the screen. Please contact her. She has a wonderful blog on your website. It's a really nice read. And I understand that you can also download your workbook on your website. Is it correct? Does it cost anything?
I don't think you can download the workbook, but you can take the quiz. I'm going to put the quiz on the website so that you'll be able to take the quiz, and then you can download those quick, easy life hacks that we're just talking about to give you those quick, easy wins.
Okay. That sounds awesome. Thank you so much.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Yes, it's really amazing. And we will end at this point. We wish you the best. We wish the best to your support group that all these women, I understand, you work with. And I admire you for sharing with them the opportunity to lead and share their experiences. I think that's the best way. Thank you. We are Coping Life Talk, and we will see you next Saturday.